Before there is hide and go seek, where we lean up against the big pine tree. We count to 100 about as fast as humanly possible, most of the time with one eye half open, and then we run around trying to find our friends. That before there's hide and go seek, there is the precious, adorable game of Peekaboo, where we lean over a child and we hide our face behind our hands, and then we pop out and say, "Here I am." And every time we hide our face, the child is utterly shocked because we have vanished. We have disappeared. That we were there, and then we weren't. And then we were there again. That it is magic. And it's not just magical for the child. It is easy to fall in love with Peekaboo. Because every time we pop out from behind our hands, the sheer enjoyment and expressions on the child's face is near perfect. The child is learning object permanence. And so often when we learn the science behind child development, it ruins the magic. Like that stage where we think that our baby is finally recognizing us when we walk in the room and smiling when he sees us, that it's probably just a little gas. But object permanence does not ruin the magic. Because the child is learning, even though you cannot see what is there, it does not mean it is no longer there. And there are countless times throughout our lives when God is hidden from us. That we cannot quite see what is true and good, not because we are incapable of it, but perhaps we are learning something new about God. That God is just obstructed from us. That even though we cannot see that God is there, God's presence is. Even though we cannot see beyond the struggle that is immediately in front of us, grace is around the corner. And even though we are full of anxiety, the Spirit of God is at work in the background of our lives. That so often we see God's presence from the top of the mountain. Those mountaintop experiences where we stand there and nothing can obstruct our view. Where a hymn transports us to another place. Where a retreat invites us to pause and reflect. Where a mission trip opens us up to participate in God's love in new ways. But eventually, we walk back down off of the mountain where we enter those ordinary days, those fast-paced days where something can obstruct our view and we wonder whether God is still there. That our lives might be punctuated by those mountaintop experiences. They are the commas and the exclamation points, but they are not the full content of the stories of our faith. And it is a sacred experience to be surprised by God's presence. when we did not realize that God was there. It's like the experience of Abraham and Sarah, where they were called to follow God. They had to set out for a new place, and the brochure looked really good. But reality is always different. They had to leave everything that they knew, everything that was familiar behind. And the book of Hebrews says, this is faith. The assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen, that it is a lesson in object permanence. And there are always new destinations in front of us. Starting a new job, moving to a new town, the first day of school, the first syllabus of college. Or we enter a new season of life where our responsibilities have changed, where our bodies feel different, where our purpose has shifted, where we enter a new challenge and there's more to learn, more to experience, more to figure out, or we enter a new struggle where we are carrying around an uncertainty that is unfamiliar to us. It can feel like the face of God has been covered. And we are unsure whether God is there, and we yearn for the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. In the Rocky Mountain National Park, there are over 350 miles of trails that you can open up a map, pick a trail at random, and just follow the well-marked signs. It's the assurance of things that are seen. But in the Badlands National Park, it's a different story. That there aren't all these mountains, but there are these mounds. So you can sort of peer over them and see around them. So it feels as if it'd be easier to navigate. But in the Badlands, there is 240,000 acres and only 20 miles of marked trails. So when Connor Knighton arrived, he was confused. He'd only been in places like the Rocky Mountain National Park, and he went to the park ranger and said, "What do I do?" And the ranger said, "Oh, well, here we make our own trails. Just pick a direction and start walking, but take plenty of water and watch out for rattlesnakes." Making our own trails is harder. But it can be this sacred experience of not realizing God is there, but trusting in what we cannot see. And it shapes us along the way. The biblical scholar N.T. Wright moved to London years ago, and he had been to London many times. He knew the city fairly well, but as he says, living there and learning how to navigate all of the city, particularly using the underground, was quite hard. And when you look at that map, color-coded with all of those lines crisscrossing and intersecting of all the underground trains for London, it looks like a big plate of spaghetti. It is confusing. But he still remembers the day when it felt like it was all coming together, that he could finally envision the big picture, that he had to get lost a few times. He had to visit enough new places, but eventually he didn't need the map. And it's why he marveled at how the taxi drivers of London never used a map. It was only later that he discovered that the taxi drivers in London have to undergo this long process of training over a couple years where they walk every street of the city, taking detailed notes, learning all of the signs so they can find their way around. It's a process called the knowledge. And brain scans have shown of taxi drivers in London that kind of spatial learning and navigation shapes the brain in new ways. And we are shaped in similar ways as we learn to navigate life through the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. But when it feels like God's face has been hidden from us, it fills us with fear. Even if we cannot put a finger on it, even if we have trouble naming it. It's why Jesus continues to say, do not be afraid. Fear not. But whenever fear gets the best of us, we can end up just reaching out and grabbing on to anything within our reach that we can see. But that's why Jesus also says, sell your possessions, give alms, make purses out of what will last. Because when we simply hold on to what we can see, it can keep us from seeing anything else. And when we are surprised by God's presence, when we did not realize God is there, it serves us well to write it down, to keep a list, to make an inventory, to enter a line into our journal. Because there will come a time again later on when we are not sure whether God is there or not. And we can revisit that short list of memories, knowing that even if we cannot see what is there, it does not mean it is not there. It is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. Amen.